Welcome to the Biscuit Book Club on Joy 620 WRJZ, featuring Marcy and Shelley. Today, conversation will build you up in the faith and encourage you to do what God has called you to do. Brought to you by Simplify Hauling. And now, let's go to the studio with Marcy.
Welcome to the Biscuit Book Club, y'all. We're serving up stories with Southern charm. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Marcy. So grab your cup of coffee or sweet tea and settle in as we chat with today's featured author and kind of talk about the fun of the seasons changing.
Yeah, we're going into fall. It is fall. So I just think about, what do you think about? I think about Hallmark movies and I always watch You've Got Mail. Some time between now and December, the end of December, I'll watch You've Got Mail. It's my favorite movie of all time. And what about you?
So we do, one of the things that we love doing is, first of all, making cookies. And I do have the kids coming over. I bought all of our grandkids matching pajamas. And then we're going to call it the Cousin Christmas Kringle weekend. And we're going to make gingerbread houses. And we'll probably watch Home Alone. So with them. But this is kind of John and I, during the holiday season, and I know that this is, like, some guys don't want to admit this, but we will subscribe to Hallmark movies for the Christmas season just so we can see if there's been anything new or just to see how corny some of the Hallmark movies can get. But some of them are good. I mean, they're very predictable, but they are kind of, I don't know, it's part of our Christmas tradition. And I'm not much of you're more of a fiction writer and a fiction reader. I am not. Yeah. And so I do read some fiction, but you're more in that zone. And so what do you love reading for fiction?
Yes, I read a lot of women's fiction because that's what I write. But I also, our guest that I invited today, she writes romance. But to me, her books are a lot leaning toward the women's fiction because she doesn't shy away from real life struggles. And she does a great job of weaving faith, romance, and real life together so beautifully. So I'm excited to talk to her and let you get to know her more.
Yeah.
Let's just give her a call.
Yeah, well, let's just give her a call, see if she's home. And this is a new term I heard, let her cook. Let her cook means let it go to the next level, I guess. My kids told me that.
And we're calling Becky Wade. We didn't even say her name, sorry. Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Hey, Becky, it's Shelley and Marcy from the Biscuit Book Club. Welcome.
Hi, Shelley. Hi, Marcy.
Hey, how are you? We were just talking about Christian romance and also the fact that, there's something special about the holidays where you're just wanting to cozy in with a good read and a good romance. And not to say that I love the Hallmarks, but I do have to say they do have a good formula for writing the perfect romance. But you're a romance writer. Shelley told me about your books, and I actually did start looking into the Sons of now I'm Scandal, yeah.
Scandal, yeah.
I'm thinking the Sons of Seasons, and I think because we're talking about cinnamon and everything, but
you were talking about seasons, so that's another S word. It got in your head.
Yeah, well, maybe they're seasonal sons of Scandal. I don't know, but maybe every son has a different season of Scandal.
Yes, and it's set in Maine, and I love the covers. They're so beautiful.
Well, I started listening to the audiobooks. When you had your audiobooks done, did you have to listen to different people talking and then pick which narrator did your books?
Yes, I produced those audiobooks myself. I really wanted, as a romance author who writes from both the hero and heroine's point of view, to have audiobooks that were read by both a male and a female narrator. So In a lot of audiobooks, a female narrator reads the entire book, but in my audiobooks for the Sons of Scandal series, a male narrator reads all of the heroes' point of view sections. And so I did. I listened to samples of different narrators, and when I heard the ones that I ultimately chose, I knew right away. I was like, oh my goodness, this is my narrator. And I couldn't be happier with how those audiobooks turned out.
I am so impressed. It was I had just started listening to this. I'm like, I'm going to download this so I can listen to it on a car trip because it was so well done. And those last 3 books, you do see more women heroines versus heroines versus the male narrative. But I loved it. I loved the premise. And you have a lot of series that you've done, but Shelley's the one who actually is more of the fiction writer, so she has more fiction sense than I do, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Becky, like when you sit down to write a new story, or when it starts brewing in your head, what comes first, the character, the setting, or the theme?
Typically, the character comes first, and I can usually also discern the premise. So in fiction writing circles, we call it the inciting incident, the thing that begins the story. It's usually a combination of those 2 things. I have in mind the premise of the book and also at least one of the characters, and then I build the rest of the novel from there.
Okay. And you have beautiful small town settings. I love that. From Maine to Washington State, and Blue Ridge Mountains, and now you were raised in California, but like Marcy and I, you've left your home state, and now you're in Texas, right?
Yes. So I was born and raised in Southern California, and moved to Texas for college. And then my husband and I, after we married, we actually lived overseas for 4 years. And then eventually he had a job offer in Dallas, Texas, and we came back for that job, and he's still with that company all these years later. It's where we raised our kids. But through fiction, I've really had fun moving my series into fictional small towns all across the country. That's part of the joy for me. So my first series was set in Texas, and it was kind of my love letter to my adopted home state. And then my second series was set in Washington State, as you mentioned, and then I did the mountains of northern Georgia, and then I did Maine. So I have 14 novels and 5 novellas, I think, at this point, and I'm looking to set my new series that I'm kind of working on now in a whole nother location yet again. It's just, it gives me a reason to go and travel, for one thing, to these fabulous places.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask if you visit some of the places, like if you have a town in mind and you go visit that town just to kind of sit in the coffee shop, hear how people talk, get some of the deep history. Do you visit these small towns and then elaborate on those, or do you make everything up from scratch?
Yes, I absolutely do visit each of these locations. So, for example, just taking my most recent Sons of Scandal series that is, as Shelley said, set in Maine, I had never been to the state of Maine, and I'd always wanted to go. And so I did research prior to the trip that my husband and I took, and I thought to myself that the town of Camden looked like a great inspiration for the setting. And so sure enough, we went and visited Camden in person and got to do those things like sit in the coffee shops, go to the restaurants, walk the streets, take photos of the views, all of the things. And I ended up loving that town even way more than I expected to love it. And so that is my inspiration for the town of Groomsport in my book. It gives me more freedom to make up a fictional town because then I can do with it whatever I want. I don't have to stay true to the realities of Camden. But in honor of the town of Camden, I named my characters the surname of Camden. So the characters in the book, that's their last name, Camden, as a nod to the actual town that inspired the fictional one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. How you add that in. What a great thing. How many books total have you written that and you already have some that are on the horizon too, you said?
Yes. So I have one standalone, and then the other 13 novels are all part of a series. Most of my series are family series, but I do have one, the Misty River romance series. That's the one set in the North Georgia mountain that's about friends.
Okay.
And then, I'm looking to set my next series in the state where I was born and raised. And so were you, Marcy. I'm setting it in the redwood forest of far, far northern California. And my husband and I have also visited that location. So I had a chance to go and see that for myself, too.
Oh, that's a beautiful setting. Yeah, I'm actually from I'm from between Sacramento and Reno, so up past Auburn. So it was in the Sierras. It was up close to Truckee. So it was called the Banana Belt of Timber. So, yeah, and so it's Southern California and Northern California are very different. But
that's true. Yes, very different.
What a beautiful setting, though. I know, right? Is it by the coast then that you're capturing?
It is, yes. I'm doing a big ranch set in the redwoods near the coast. Exactly.
Yep. Oh, that's beautiful.
I found that part of our country to be magically, incredibly, stunningly beautiful. I just loved it.
Yeah, very rugged. So, and then can you tell us anything about the premise of the new series that you're working on?
Sure. I'm going to return again to doing a family series, and this time the first book is about the oldest brother in the family, and he has triplet sisters that are younger than him, which is fun because I've never tried to write triplets before that are adults, so this has been really fun. And it starts when the heroine gets off a plane, and you know how sometimes when you go down towards the baggage claim area, there's chauffeurs holding up nameplates, and she's trying to escape from someone, so she sees somebody holding up a nameplate, and she says to them, "That's me," even though it's not. And she gets in the car, and the chauffeur drives her off, and when he lets her out, she's at a courthouse, and she meets the hero there, and he's like, "Well, you're not who was supposed to get in that car." And she's like, "I know, I'm sorry. Who is she to you?" And he says, "My bride. We're about to get married." And so that kicks off the book that I'm working on now. I don't yet have a title for it or a release date. I'm still working on the very first draft, but I am having a bunch of fun with it.
I love that. So that is such. I'm hooked already. I'm hooked.
That sounds like kind of like a Hallmark movie. But what I know about Becky Wade is she does a great job of weaving faith and romance and real life struggles. And how do you strike that balance, Becky, between just heart-tugging romance and deep themes?
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's something that I'm definitely striving for. I wouldn't say, though the books have a lot of humor in them, I wouldn't call them light because they do have depth and they have hard things that the characters either have been through or are going through. And that balance is something I strike because what I'm trying to do through the fiction is glorify a perfect God. I'm not trying to glorify perfect humans. So the humans in my books are imperfect. They've made mistakes. They're struggling. They're having issues that they're trying to grapple with. And because of that, it gives me a canvas in which to show how a perfect God nevertheless loves and pursues them. And to me, that's the power of writing Christian fiction. I mean, that's the gospel. So it's something that I work towards with every draft of every book. And if I feel like a character is coming off as inauthentic, then I'll really think on that, pray over that, delete what's inauthentic, and try to stay really true and real with the character.
I love that. Yes, you do a great job at that. Like I said, that, you know, sometimes the premise like that can sound hallmarky. That's so fun, and I can't wait to read this series. That you just really get to the heart of things, and I love that. And I think, I mean, you have a great following that keep coming back for many reasons, but definitely for that reason.
And
yeah, I'm fortunate that I do have quite a few readers who found me over all of these years and have been really supportive. But that is one of the things I mention the most, is the thing that you said, which is just the characters do feel more real. And so, yeah, that's so like in this setup, which seems very lighthearted, what I didn't mention is that the hero has a lot of really traumatic things in his backstory and is dealing with that throughout the course of the story. So that gives you a sense of the kind of the mix of lightness and depth that I strive for with my books.
What year was your first book published? How long have you been writing?
My first book was called My Stubborn Heart, and that was published in 2012.
Oh, wow. Long time.
Yeah.
And
you know, it was funny because when I started, it was like readers would ask me, well, what else do you have published? And I could say, well, I just have this one book. You know, it's just the one book. And I'm not a super fast writer. It takes me a year at least to write each novel. But I've been at this now for a while. And so it's only just with the passage of years and consistency that suddenly now when readers are like, what else have you written? I can say, well, I have this whole backlist now. Because I haven't forgotten what it felt like to just have one book out, you know, and that was a joy too. And that was such a blessing, but it's just been wonderful that the Lord has equipped all these novels over all these years.
Yeah, but that's pretty quick. I mean, 2012, that's 13 years to have that many books. That's quite a backlist.
Yeah.
So
what's your writing process? Would you care to tell a little bit? Are you a pantser or a plotter, or how do you do that?
I'm kind of a hybrid of those two things. I definitely do not plot out the entire book before I begin, but I do have a general sense usually of where I'm going, and then I just figure out the rest as I go, as I sit down to write. So yeah, it's kind of a mixture of those two approaches. It's a little tiny bit of plotting and mostly writing by the seat of my pants. And then it's a lot of editing. I do a tremendous amount of editing later because my first draft is terrible. So then I have to spend, you know, quite some time trying to make the terrible manuscript into something better than it was.
What's your favorite, first draft or editing?
I prefer editing, although I have come to enjoy the first draft more than I used to because I dictate a lot of it now. I go out with my dog in my neighborhood and I just speak the scene into my phone, and my phone does that cool, you know, voice to text thing. And that has been helpful because it's freed me up from perfectionism, because if I'm sitting at my computer in the quiet staring at a blinking cursor, there's something in me that wants to write well, and that slows me down. But if I'm out walking my dog, of course it's going to be awful. So then it frees me up from trying to make it good, and instead just lets me get the bones of the scene down, which really helps speed things along.
I was going to say, I know, like, how many kids do you have? And you are close within a couple years of having an empty nest. So I call that the emptying nest. And so you've been kind of having to juggle taking care of kids, taking care of your home, taking care of all those other things, and you've been able to juggle that. What is, if you are within a couple years, if you can see the finish line in your view up ahead, what writing goals are you hoping to achieve once you have a little bit more extra time?
Yeah, I love the phrase, the emptying nest. I've never heard that, but it's so appropriate because I have 3 kids, and I have an 8-year age spread between oldest to youngest. So that's been a little bit unique. The other 2 have been gone for quite some time in college and beyond, and then I still have my little one who's 5.5 years younger than my middle child. I've still had her at home for these 5 years. So she has 2 years left to go. She just started her junior year of high school. And I'm trying to soak in and enjoy every minute of having one child still in the nest.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my writing when she goes, I think maybe this is a little bit unexpected because I don't plan to write more when she goes. I've always felt like the Lord has given me the creative pace that he gave me, which is one book a year. And so once she goes, if he continues to call me to write novels, I fully expect to continue to write them at the pace of one book a year, just because my creativity, even if I had a lot more time in my schedule, my creativity, it's got its own speed, and that's its speed after all of these years of working with it. In fact, I may even write less. Now that I don't have deadlines anymore, I've just given myself more freedom to kind of write at a pace that just feels comfortable and wonderful to me. And with my husband, maybe just, I don't know, a handful of years away from retirement, we may start traveling more or living in a different part of the country that's less blazing hot in the summers. You know, we just have some exciting adventures that may be around the corner for us. So I guess with the writing, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see what happens with that.
I do have to say, I found that to be true as well. I was a newspaper girl before I ever wrote a book, and so I always had deadlines, and on my business card it said, a mom who writes, so I always balanced everything around our kids, but I would have deadlines. We had soccer games, football games, piano, and I always was so good on my meal planning and all that stuff, and once the kids all left, it's hard. It's like, how do you feel about cornflakes for dinner? You know, like...
Popcorn.
Yes. Right. I think
popcorn for dinner.
We always think that when this happens, like whatever this is, I get my book turned in or my youngest kid goes away from the house, we always think that we'll have just way more time in our schedule than we actually end up having. Because then there are other things that we begin to become involved with that maybe we haven't had an opportunity before. So time is a funny thing. It doesn't always pan out like you expect.
Right. And for the listeners that just tuned in, we are talking to Christy Award winner Becky Wade. She writes Christian romance, and she's actually in the Christy Hall of Fame. I don't know if you remember meeting me, Becky, but I was there when you were inducted into the Christy Hall of Fame, and I got my picture with you.
Yes, I absolutely do remember meeting you, Shelley. I do, and I felt like it was a joy to get to meet you in person, and I felt like we had, I don't know, just a rapport or a connection. You know, you're so warm and kind, and I kind of felt like we had that click, you know, and then I was able to kind of connect with you later on social media, which has been fun.
Yeah.
To watch your journey.
Well, thank you. I thought that too. That's awesome. Yeah. And, you know, and then you do feel like you kind of get to be friends on social media when you get to see each other and you share, you know, I love when you share your writing tips or different things that are very encouraging to me as a new author.
So where can we
Well,
find
that's
you?
the whole reason I'm on social media is to kind of feel like I can connect with people and to hear about their lives and their jobs and their kids. And I don't feel like I'm there to be, you know, sold products. I would much rather, you know, foster connections with other people. And so that's exactly why I'm there. And that's how I try to be on social media as well. Just sharing about my writing, but also just my family and my life and all of it.
Yeah, you did a great job at that. I love that.
So, Becky, where can people find you?
Well, my website is beckywade.com. So it's just BECKYWADE.com. And I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And I always respond to emails. So if anybody has specific questions for me, they can reach out to me that way too.
Great. Or any place that quality books are sold. So, and
yes, any place that quality books are sold.
Yes. And
too.
I always encourage people too, like if you hear of a great guest like Becky Wade and you go into your local library and they don't have the Sons of Scandal series, ask your library to order it, because that way other people can get to know Becky Wade as well. So if you don't order it on Amazon or at your local Christian bookstore, make sure you ask your library to order it so that they can have it for other people to check out too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That is such a good suggestion. In fact, those audiobooks that you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, those have been so widely available in libraries that they've actually been listened to that way more than any other way. So thank you to those of you who consume books through your libraries. It really is a huge help.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Well, I am looking forward to finding out what happens to the groom with the gal who accidentally or who is escaping somebody. What a fun twist in just a short amount of time. I can't wait. I hope that they make that into a Hallmark movie, and I hope it happens to be when John and I get our subscription during the holidays. So
I hope so too. That's a big dream.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about having a movie made, or which one of your books would you love to see turned into a movie?
I actually think Memory Lane would be one that would suit the screen well. So, yeah, I've thought about it. It would be great if it happens, but we'll just have to see what God has in store.
Okay. Well, we'll have to bombard Hallmark with Memory Lane on Christmas Lane from Becky Wade coming soon to a television near you. That would be great. Thanks so much for joining us here at the Biscuit Book Club, where we're serving stories with Southern charm.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Becky, and we'll watch for you on Instagram. And thank you, listeners, and tune in next week. Until then, keep reading and keep it cozy, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's Biscuit Book Club with Marcy and Shelley. Be listening next week at the same time for great encouragement and a challenge for what God has for your life on the Biscuit Book Club on Joy 620 WRJZ.